So in this 5-minute episode, we're going to talk about how name, image, and likeness came about, how the new rules came about, and how we are currently dealing with what we're dealing with. In another 5-minute episode, we'll talk about what's happening with it right now. So name, image, and likeness. Of course, name, image, and likeness is the ability of a college athlete to make money off of their name, image, and likeness. If you sign an autograph, you can be paid for it now. If you show cars at a local car dealership, you can be paid for it, as being an athlete. So if you're working as an athlete, representing yourself as an athlete, you can be paid at a local car dealership to do, ads with the cars, or you can sponsor your local chicken restaurant, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things that were prohibited previously to these name, image, and likeness rules coming out over the last year or two. Anybody who is a college athlete knows you were told don't accept money for a sandwich, don't accept a deal on running shoes, nothing outside of what is given to you in your scholarship and what is given to you by your school to compete in terms of gear. If you accepted any money for an autograph or you accepted any benefit, this would be considered an impermissible benefit and you would be ruled ineligible. I was a former college athlete. We would have auditorium sessions where it's drilled into us, do not accept that sandwich. That sandwich will make you ineligible, et cetera, et cetera. So you had your scholarship. If you were on full scholarship, you had a stipend for food and et cetera. Partial scholarship all the way down to books. And then the gear, everyone that was sort of on the roster got the gear based on, what contract your school had, et cetera, et cetera. There's countless national examples of this, making players ineligible. One of the biggest, most known ones, of course, is Terrell Pryor at Ohio State, being involved in a situation where there was a local tattoo shop giving free or discounted tattoos to the players of the Ohio State football team. And of course, it led to a huge scandal and et cetera, et cetera. Now, obviously, and this is part of the reason a lot of this has changed, the fans didn't really care. There's not a lot of fans that care if a player gets a free tattoo or something like that. As far as the idea of amateurism and full payment and all of that kind of stuff, sure, there's a debate on that. But as far as these sort of impermissible benefits, within reason, I think most fans were on the side of, the athlete or of really not regulating that. Now, everybody knows that one of the things that really drove this was that the NCAA had a lawsuit against them go all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, this lawsuit in the Supreme Court was actually not specifically about NIL. This was the Alston versus NCAA decision, and it was about the idea of capping academic-related aids to athletes. So a laptop to learn in school, et cetera, et cetera. The idea was that's what the suit was brought for. And the NCAA lost, the plaintiffs won, and there was to be no cap on educational-related benefits. Now, what has sparked this whole NIL thing is that the NCAA didn't just lose in the Supreme Court. They lost 9-0. And Justice Kavanaugh wrote a follow-on opinion that basically said many people interpreted as bring on the additional lawsuit. One of the main pieces of what he said, and I'll just quote that here, is the NCAA basically uses circular logic. They say we can't pay our players because people want to watch players who are amateur and not being paid. So he was saying you can't just say we don't pay for our labor because the product that we're selling is a product where the labor is not paid. That is the product, is watching people that are unpaid play. And so many people viewed this as a bring it on kind of situation. And of course, as I said, public sentiment is changing. And as these contracts in, especially the SEC and the Big Ten, were to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year, approaching $1 billion a year for the conference, the fan and the politicians started to say, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be so tight on these impermissible benefits. Now, in the Supreme Court's ruling, they mentioned, you can have a no Lamborghini rule. So meaning like within certain limits, but basically the only limit is a Lamborghini. So you could get 5 laptops if you needed them and 2 iPads and all that kind of stuff to study, but a Lamborghini maybe is not considered a study aid. So how NIL came about is that in wake of this decision and this sort of eroding ability of the NCAA to monitor some of this stuff, the NCAA sort of abdicated their responsibility. They said, let's make this a state issue and the state will deal with what's going on. So they abdicated. They left it up to the local state legislatures. Went to the state legislatures for the vote. We saw initially some states pass it, much quicker than others. And that was sort of a disadvantage to some of these other schools. But now we're seeing it start to go through all of the state legislatures. And basically across the board now, student athletes and the NCAA can make money off their name, image, and likeness without becoming ineligible. And that's a big step forward. All right, we're out of time. We'll see you next time.